So, welcome, Jocelyn, here today to tell your story of recovery from chronic pain. So, go ahead and give everybody just a little bit of a thumbnail or a little sketch of what happened, and then we'll get into some details.
Yeah, so I am a professional dance artist and I went to a conservatory for college for dance and upon graduating just said yes to all the jobs and opportunities that came my way. And um so I was doing a lot, and one of the things I was asked to do was fill in for a dancer in an Irish step dancing company. And I
Beautiful.
have no
I love
training.
that.
I have no training in Irish step dancing. But it was a colleague of mine who said, it's last minute and we really need someone, and I could um, learn material quickly and fill in and do the job well enough. So I did that for her. Just had a few quick rehearsals and then was performing. And um, on the night that I performed, had the performance, then had a phone call after with my mom that my dear, dear dog that I grew up with had to be put to sleep.
Oh, okay.
And so kind of two different things colliding. And
Right.
and this dog was like, ugh, the world to me. Just
What
part
was the dog's name?
Her name was Missy, and I
Missy.
actually found her. Um,
Okay. Wow, she found
and
you.
she found me and I found her, and we always said she's like part human. She was just like kind of scary, intelligent, and just a wonderful companion. And so then the next morning I woke up. So the next morning after Irish step dancing on concrete floors, which involves, I don't know if you're familiar with Irish step dancing, but it's
Yeah.
when you're unskilled, it's a lot it's a lot of stomping, but I'm sure
Right.
you're formally trained in it. There's a way to sort of really take care of your joints. So the next morning I woke up and couldn't walk.
Okay.
And so it was like a perfect setup for that chicken or egg. Like, is it mind? Is it body? Is it mind? Is it body? Right? It's the perfect setup for that um, mind body conundrum. And it just set me on this journey of trying to figure out how to get back up on my feet.
Okay. So when you say you couldn't walk, could you not get out of bed at all?
Nope,
And
I was crawling to the bathroom on all fours.
sensations in back, legs, everywhere,
Sensation,
or just
no, since yeah, that's a great question. Sensations
okay.
in my sacrum.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sacrum. Yeah. So what I'm hearing is a perfect, as you said, it's a perfect setup for chronic pain because when you have an extreme emotional event where you're feeling deeply, unconscious mind can try to protect you from that pain, from that emotional, from allowing that to just flow through you by giving intense physical sensation to distract you from it. That's kind of the Dr. John Sarno way of looking at it, is like that pain came to stop you from feeling those emotions, to distract you, to like pull you away because mind saw the loss as I wouldn't even say the loss, but the transition of your dog into a new relationship with you without her body and into as a real threat, as a predator almost, and didn't want you to allow that energy to flow through. So instead gave you this huge boost of sensations.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
It absolutely makes sense. And I think there was, from the mind perspective, also this sense of, like not being able to, I had saved this dog's life once before. And so I
Okay.
think there's a part of my young mind that felt like I could save her again. But there's so the sense of this lack of control, maybe too, that was part of the sensation response. So distraction from grief could be a piece of it, and maybe trying to get me to do something about it, trying to get me to save her or something, or to
Exactly.
cause
Yeah.
it to not have happened, or to even see her one more time, because I wasn't there for her transition. So all that sort of like little bundle of effort that the mind was trying to do for me on my behalf, but wasn't the result of it was getting me on my hands and knees. Um, yeah, and then the physical stuff was real too, you know?
So how did you approach that? Like, did you go to doctors?
Yep.
When you say the physical stuff was real, were there fractures? Did you
What
do
I
x-ray?
well, yeah, on both sides of it. So I mean, there's, in a lot of these New York City like dance floors, they're not sprung. They're like the subfloors are concrete,
Okay.
um this particular um situation was performing on concrete. So when looking at, in that mindset of trying to figure out cause, you're like, that's a viable cause.
Right.
Yeah, right. So the emotional stuff, like, that's possible. The environmental stuff, that's possible. And so the mind gets sent spinning. And yeah, I went on a journey of endless doctors. I had two MRIs and a CAT scan. And what was that thing we talked another day? But what was that quote you said about, it was someone else's quote about finding, like, it's normal to find abnormalities. What was
Oh,
that?
Dr. Sarno used to tell his patients when
Yeah,
he would look at their MRI, he would say that's normal abnormalities. Or
right,
he would say that's wrinkles on the inside. So we have wrinkles on the outside, we're aging. And he said, you're going to see that on every scan.
right,
And so you're going to see something on every scan. So an unskilled physician in in the realm of just structural stuff is
right,
going to say, "Oh, you have disc bulges." Like for
right.
me, scoliosis, spina bifida obscura. There was a bunch of stuff, and the doctors would be like, "Oh, look at this, look at this." And meanwhile, I'm thinking, "Wow, there's a lot of problem here. There's a lot. I have a lot of issues." When
Yeah,
in reality, I probably had those a long time. I
yeah,
know it's in middle school, I had to be in a special class because of scoliosis. It was mild, but
right,
they put me in a class with kids who were not supposed to be doing more vigorous stuff. But it was weightlifting. So I got stronger and stronger. And what they didn't know at the school was that I was a swamp kid. I was running through the swamp. I was swimming with alligators. I was like I was doing everything,
you were doing
everything
it anyway.
outside of school, jumping
Yeah,
off the dock, and yeah. So like there was just like constant energy and activity. But in school, they're like, oh no, and I couldn't. Anyway, I got stronger. It was a good path for me that they put me in that class because I started weightlifting, and
right,
it really just continued. It put me on a path of weight training. High school, I was a
right.
power lifter, all that. So
Oh, that's
yeah.
amazing.
I was a dancer too.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, in Scotland was where I
Amazing.
danced professionally. And so that was really fascinating. And I could go into that more, but I also have a dear brother on this journey named Jacob. And Jacob had an injury in New York City dancing with a company there. And the injury healed and the pain went away, but then that circuit was established and the pain came back. And he went through, I think, a decade-long journey of chronic pain and recovery. Now he's a coach. And he works
Right,
primarily with pain reprocessing therapy, which we talked about a little bit yesterday. But
right.
back to your point, wrinkles on the
Yeah,
inside. So they did
right.
MRIs.
They
They
did
found
MRIs, and they found that my left SI joint was larger. And so they said I have arthritis.
okay,
But my left leg is longer too, and my left foot is a little bigger. And so it was, the thing that I'm most thankful for about this, I'll just plant the seed, kind of thankful it happened in my 20s, because I don't associate any of this with aging or with age, because I was just
right, right, right.
so young and really like
Right.
great shape. And so I I had age on my side to sort of be really critical. I'm like, really? Not to say that 20-year-olds don't get arthritis, but in my
Sure.
particular circumstance, with my own history and family history and just also my own body, I was like, really? I was able to look at that critically. I'm like, arthritis? Okay. So I didn't buy that. And then I had another um physician offer suggest really to cut through the gluteus max
Wow.
and remove the piriformis muscle.
Wow. Yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah.
In a, you know,
It's all
I,
on YouTube. There's a physician who does that a bunch. And yeah. Anyway, well, how did you respond to that?
it did, after him mentioning that sort of the residual effects of ha going through the glute max and um it just wasn't the grief versus gravy ratio.
Yeah, yeah.
It was not, and it was really early on in my sort of
I'm glad you.
investigation phase that I was like, okay, I just kind of put it aside. Um and So, and then, acupuncturists and chiropractors and massage therapists and yoga and Pilates and all of
Oh
it.
my goodness. Yeah. I think
Yeah,
our journeys are very similar. And I think other people who are watching this are going to have gone through a bunch of stuff too. It's like
yeah,
there's a sequence that we all go through. We go medical, then we go to alternative medicine, and we
right.
hoping that one of them is going to give us some magic potion, some intervention that's going to really take it away. Like it's going to
Yeah,
make it disappear. Did you
yeah.
find any of that helpful, or was it
I did. I found a fair amount of it helpful, even if it was unhelpful.
right?
Because,
Okay, explain that.
well, because then you're on the others, the before you enter into something, you're in the I wonder if this will help, and then you do it and
So
it
hopeful,
hopeful or even curious.
right?
And you wonder and then you do it and let's say it doesn't help. Well, then you're better off knowing it didn't help because you know
Right.
now. So just
Put it behind you,
knowledge, it's
right?
behind you.
Right.
So I honestly felt like it was all helpful. It showed up at the time to try. I tried it and some helped and some didn't. The stuff that helped the most was stuff that increased my relaxation and stuff that increased my joy and stuff that increased my connection with people.
Right.
And so just even like an example, like so if something if my I always said my back was out. It was really my sacrum, but I would say my back was out. My back was out and it felt inflamed. Um, icing, sure, could help, but what was even more amazing was icing and then also putting like a heat pack on my shoulders because it felt yummy and
Yeah.
good. And there was
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
about that communicated to my nervous system, like, I got this.
Yeah.
Like, heat's here, ice here, you can chill out. I got this. So
Right.
it was sort of like just quelling that like undercurrent of like fear, oh my gosh, we got to protect the body and all this stuff, or and it was just like, you're good. I got this. So it wasn't the deep tissue targeted massage. It was this massage that was very symmetrical, very feel good, very, just like just pleasant, not too challenging. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
those kinds of things. It just made me chill out and relax.
It sounds like you were doing those things just to feel good instead of
Hmm.
trying to fix. Like you weren't
Yep.
in there like trying to like I did dry needling at one point. I mean, they're jamming an electric needle currents and like that was all about fixing, right?
Right.
But then when I had a gentle massage, even though things were still really intense afterward, like it felt good. It felt nurturing. And
Yes.
it was human touch. It was, which is something you may remember from the workshop was that a part of my somatic process is that touch, like giving yourself that loving touch. And I'm not the inventor of that, but we evolved that way to be touched and be
Yep.
touching ourselves, others, whatever, in this loving way. So that
And you know what?
calms.
It was absolutely that kind of thing, the pleasure, the feel good, the human touch, the human connection. And something that's coming to mind really specifically is this one time immense amount of pain. Um, my roommate is interested in going to the park and having a great and just chilling out and hanging out at the park. And I hobbled down to the park with her and I sat right on soil, like right on grass and
Nice.
sat on
Okay.
the earth.
Love
And I chose like a spot where like it was like a little bit on a hill so that my pelvis
that.
could have a slight anterior tilt and my back could be supported. But I sat on the ground and we chatted and we had a wonderful time as friends together. And I stood up and I was in no pain. So it was
Wow.
just like that, sometimes even like the touch of earth, it's like human touch,
Yeah,
also like grass and like
I love
flex
it.
on like soil and grass, like that kind of
Yeah,
touch too.
I live that too. On my recovery journey, I even wrote it in my song. I'm recovering. The song is called Brighter Days Await Us All. But there's a line, in the dark, I learned to dance. A little spark was all I had. My back against the rainy earth. I waited for another birth. And that was
Wow.
literal. Like I would go in the backyard, there was a slope under a tree, and I would lie down on the ground and just, even if it was rainy, even if it was whatever was going on, just to get out in it and
Yeah.
just feel the earth beneath me. And it
Hmm.
was very healing. I would listen to birds, close my eyes. This was in Washington State, so it wasn't like there weren't any rattlesnakes or anything. so
You
so
and you did that sort of intuitively, right? You weren't.
right, intuitively. And I also spent time in my garden. So it was like I was down on my knees doing my gardening because of
Yeah.
the intensity of the sensations. But that particular memory you have is really helpful for folks to
Yeah.
get down on the earth in a safe space and
Yep.
really connect with that energy.
Yep.
I I studied magnetobiology in college. That was my undergrad thesis. And so the magnetic field of the Earth used to be a lot stronger when we were evolving. In geological time, they figured it out that the magnetic field was a lot stronger. And now we're so disconnected from it. And magnets heal like they do. You can put it on a
Hmm.
wound and it
Hmm.
heals quicker. It brings the blood. There are different theories, but mainly it just increases circulation, is how they
Yep.
explain it in science. But being on the earth has so many sensory inputs too that feel
Yep.
good. Like it just feels good to be outside, to be in
Yeah.
the woods. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. I mean, I think the the main thing for me was living life anyway.
Right.
Doing
Yeah.
what made sense to do from a comfort perspective. Like,
Right.
um, and I think and those for me, comfort care just communicated to the nervous system, like, I see you, I hear you, I got you.
I got you. Yeah.
But
I love that.
living life anyway.
Yeah.
You know?
I have a video called MFA. And as an artist, you understand the MFA, what that is, Master of Fine Arts. But
Right.
mine is move forward anyway.
Move forward
Like,
anyway. Right.
yeah. Earn
Yeah.
your MFA
Yeah.
in recovery. Yeah.
Yeah. And my mom has fibromyalgia. Um and one memory is coming to mind where she was really feeling horrible on Christmas Day.
Right.
Every family member was there, and I just admire her so much. She put her chair right in the middle of activity, set herself
Perfect.
up with whatever she needed, and she does not miss Christmas.
Perfect.
And she
Yeah.
just has such
Beautiful.
a great, and she just lives life anyway.
It's
Um,
beautiful.
if you're gonna
Yeah.
live it with fibromyalgia, you may as well live it.
Yeah. And I don't know if you're aware, but the expert doctors in the field, like Dr. Schubiner, says fibro is 100% mind body. Like there's no other test measure that makes sense. There's nothing else that they've shown to be a disease process there. it's all the mind body. It's just that with fibro, the mind, the brain, the circuits, the sensations have spread out
Yeah.
throughout the whole body. And so
Yeah.
that's, yeah. So hopefully this might be helpful for her to get into this world. I don't know if she's open
Yeah.
to it, but
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I just I think that things can narrow um
right.
when you're in this place. And
Exactly. They do. They get really small.
yeah, it gets really small. And and it's just it and you can go there and you can let it get, and if that honestly is a learning, and then you're in a place where you're convinced of that, you can get it to the size of a sesame seed, and then realize I gotta expand back out, you know? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I think I let mine get really small. I think I let it get small. Um, and then I guess it's just a learning, like, is this working for me? And it's like, well, I'm 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 just 24. Like
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
you know, so I just went to the yoga class anyway. In order to keep my career, my vocation, I had to stay strong, stay in shape. Um, so I continued with the daily training anyway, so that I would be able to take on jobs, right?
Right.
So I went to classes anyway in an immense amount of pain, and more often than not left with less pain,
Right. That's a great observation.
you know?
It's a beautiful observation.
Yeah.
I I think that's a way that happened to me in that for a long time my life shrank down from like a planet, I say, to a pea, and yours even smaller, a sesame seed. So we're laughing now, but yeah, it
Yeah.
shrank down. But I tried to go on this graded exposure, which they teach in a lot of the recovery programs. The Australian researchers talk about it.
Mhm.
Uh, and so I tried to do this gradual thing, but I felt like measuring it, like doing smaller increments and like being too focused on, am I doing too much or too little? Or that got to be really limiting for me. So then when I started to say, forget it, I'm just going to go. My friends want to go for a hike. I'm going. Like, I'm just going to do it. And sensations can go with me. It's fine. I would notice after a longer hike, I would feel better. And so that doesn't make sense with a graded exposure kind of mentality. It's like, so I started to expand that way. And then once I went into more of a flooding or more of like a big leap mentality, then I just started to do these things which seemed really unreasonable even. But I did them with a mindset of I know I'm safe here, like reminding myself the whole time, and then bringing joy into it. Like when I would swim, I bought some earphones or bone conduction. They go into so I had music going. I made some friends at the pool, and so I would be there. There was a woman who was in her 80s, and I couldn't even speak her language. I don't know what language she spoke. She was Asian, and we tried to talk. We couldn't, but she was there every day, and we would high five.
Aw.
And and that was like enough to like give me that like human connection, the music, the joy of it, to just swim and swim and
Hmm.
not and feel safe.
Right. Right. Yeah, we spoke about that hyper focus can really, really backfire. I think
Mm.
I'm a I'm not an all or nothing kind of gal. So
Okay.
um so I think what I did do some measuring. We talked about this the other day, so it might be valuable for someone else to hear.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
I did kind of assess that. I had that 1 to 10 scale, and for me, that really helped. Instead of, oh, my back is out, this one big monolithic block type thing, it was, I'm feeling stuff, and it's a 4 today, or it's a
Right,
4 right now. And
right,
then, you know, I just took a class, I'm still feeling stuff, but it's a 2. That for me was proof of change. It was proof that it was moving, that it wasn't one thing, it wasn't
Right.
one injury, it was
Right.
an energy.
It was energy. I
For
love
me, it
that.
was proof of that. And so if I knew it was moving, I knew it was moving out.
Right.
So that did help me. But I think like anything, it's like if it's a tool and it's working for you, use it.
Mhm.
But if it's
Absolutely.
if it's starting to change on you, just like medicine, like
Right.
if a little bit of like an ibuprofen um gets you to the park and living life and moving and it's a way of saying, I hear you, I see you, I got you. Here's a little
Right.
comfort care and we're going to the park, then that's sort of like a productive tool. But if it's like, get out, I don't want to feel you, I'm trying to mask you, that's kind of, so it's like, as with anything, it's like how you use it and your mentality about it.
Totally. So it sounds like you had a mentality that was really useful because you were looking at it from a perspective of I'm inconsistencies. I'm noticing that sometimes you're lower, sometimes you're higher, different times of day, different whatever. And it gave you that insight as to the variability. And if it was a real injury, we know a real injury, it hurts when it happens and it stays hurting and then it heals in this very linear way, like a
Right,
broken bone, right? I broke
right.
my arm and I've broken multiple bones in my life. Broke
Yep,
my hand, same things. In the beginning, it's way worse and it slowly feels better.
right, right.
So that's acute injuries. So that helped you get perspective by keeping track of it. Did you have a journal about it or did you write it down? Or were you just kind of like, well, today's a two, so
Yeah, no, I just made a mental note of it, and I must say, I'm all of this productive stuff is really later stage stuff. Like I totally went
okay.
through like um like phases where there'd be like some medication abuse probably and real anger and frustration and doing dance jobs and with so much like medicine in my system that it was probably really, really bad. Like beyond like what would be recommended for prescription strengths, dosage. So I
Right.
mean, I just want to be real about that. Like,
Right. That helps.
yeah, like and I think, I think working with someone who really understands unconscious mind and working with a coach like you, like if I had had that as a resource, it probably wouldn't have been such a long journey. Um, and I think I got lucky with, I don't know, maybe just um the I think the comfort care was a huge breakthrough and the pleasure. So, when things started to really work, my my warm-ups for a dance project or for a rehearsal before chronic pain were like austere.
Okay.
It just like repetition and getting every part of the body like activated,
Would you say aggressive
like aggressive and like
or
square
intense?
shaped and austere
Okay.
and like just maybe exploitive and just like really strict. But
Oh,
then
got it. Okay.
and then but so I'll give you the contrast and maybe it'll be easier to see. So then during the better stages of chronic pain or my journey out of it, the warm-ups were put on your favorite music.
Yeah. I love it.
Um, Find a corner that you have
Uh,
some space and like move into curiosity, move into pleasure, move into breath, move into sensuality, move and groove.
yeah.
And that became my warm up, like connect with the soul. You know,
Yeah. Love it.
and that was my full body activation. It was no longer like 50 sit-ups and like this many releves and this many,
Right.
it
Right.
it was just so different.
Totally get it. Like
Yeah.
that. It feels like instead of going into it with this kind of strict attitude and this austere attitude, instead, and that was more about warming up your body. you went into it of like, let's warm up the joy, let's warm up the inspiration, the creative energy that
Yeah.
goes into this work that I'm doing.
Yeah.
It's a very creative work and it's very athletic too. So instead of that like really intense athletic pushing kind of like I'm gonna really get my body going here, it's like I'm just gonna open it up with my soul, just
Yeah.
get happy, get joyful, get into the mood of
Yeah.
the music and movement. Yeah.
It's like the difference between like talking at your body and
Yeah.
listening.
Right.
So the warm up after was like when you're in a place of like curiosity and moving towards what feels good and moving towards pleasure, you have to listen
Right.
in order to know like where where you're drawn to, what you're curious about. Versus like telling the body more of that almost a punitive place. Like in order for you to be
Yeah.
acceptable, in order for you to
Right.
be acceptable as a like a um like as a productive member of this team or situation,
Right.
you must, it's conditional. You must
Yeah.
complete
Yeah.
these requirements.
Yeah. I
And
get
it's
it. Like,
punishing.
yeah. And I think that there's a fine line there for me. Like when I do something that is very uncomfortable, I feel like I need to have sometimes this kind of steel attitude, this stoic steel, like attitude. But I find that when I have that attitude, it's not as helpful as if I have a playful attitude. So if I'm
Mm,
going to go jump in the ocean and it's 38 degrees, the water's super cold, I'll sometimes get into this very like focused mindset of like, I'm getting through this, like this, I'm going to go through this tough thing. But if I can have more of an attitude of this is fun, this is weird, this is play, and I'm
yeah.
just going to jump in and splash around and maybe I'll see a seal, who knows? Like if that attitude is there, it's way more helpful. If I'm working out and I'm moving with the music, even if I'm doing really hard things and I'm working at a level where I'm reaching failure, if I'm doing that and I love the song that's on, the song is what's moving through my mind more than the
Right.
sensation of the lift, and I'll lift more. And of
Yeah.
course, a lot of this has been proven scientifically. Like The Joy of Movement is a book by Kelly McGonigal, PhD. And she found that I think they even banned some performers because they would use a special song and they would get an advantage. And the advantage was quite noticeable. So they would
Oh,
stop, like I think she talks about it in the book. There was maybe a runner and he had this specific song. And when he played that song, he could just run way faster. And so,
wow.
yeah, music is a big boost. And then being with people is also a big boost. So
Yeah.
talk about that a little, if you would. Like, when you were with other dancers, when you were still working, but you were in pain, and how was there a social component of healing, or was that more, did you talk about it, what was going on? Did you connect with people, or did you, yeah, what was that like?
Yeah. Um, you know, I don't have like amazing stories about that. I
Right.
wish I did, but as a young
Okay.
dancer, I think you're trying to
Hide it. Yeah.
hide it.
Yeah.
Um, and you know, I even had I was even up for a job in a major company, and that a friend of mine was in, and sh she didn't recommend me for the position because she had insight into my chronic pain. So, stuff like that can happen. But at the same time, there was some heroes. I had a dance colleague, who I was on tour with her, and on the day we were supposed to fly home, I was just in a ton of pain and afraid to get on a plane and sit in that tiny little. And she is a Pilates instructor, but like the physical therapy type of Pilates, which I do think is pretty amazing body of wisdom. And she came to me the morning before we were supposed to get on a plane and um, just touched this one spot on my calf.
Nice.
And I was able to like walk after that and get on the plane. And then I ended up working with her and but and I think it was her wisdom and I think it was her touch, but I also think there was something about her energy that also spoke to my nervous system, like you're in good hands, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah,
I
that
think it's
feeling.
just really letting the deeper part of our mind know, like you're okay, you know.
Yeah.
And I think being totally alone and in isolation, um, causes you to feel like you're not okay, you know? So like
Well,
so it's a
absolutely.
little bit like was it this colleague's touch or was it her energy, you
It's
know?
everything. Everything.
Everything, right? It's and
Go
both.
with it. Yeah.
So that was amazing and I think some of my employers knew that I was in pain and appreciated that I was still moving forward. But and I think it would be different now in my age and also it's a different cultural time. So I think there'd be more understanding for limitations, but also making sure that there's you know, I mean, I'm not experiencing pain anymore, but if I were, you know, I think there'd be and my energy as a person and a performer were valued, there'd be more of a sense of like we can find something for you to do. Not everybody has to do what kicks up to their head, you know, like there's
Right. Right.
lots of ways to be a valuable presence in this artwork. So, but at the time, yeah, it was isolating for sure. Um, but you know, you just people will pop in your path um and if it comes to mind to say yes to what they have to offer or to the connection, say yes to it, you know?
I love that. Yeah. I was blessed on my own journey too to have some friends disappear and new ones appear and like deeper. Like the
Yeah.
relationships feel even though some of them I've never met. Like I'd be in the middle of the night talking to somebody in Australia who's
Oh,
been through that and
yeah.
getting encouragement from people who you encounter on the journey. And so that's why I kind of asked about that. And I wanted to go back a little bit about like this idea of throwing your back out because they've shown that that's not a thing, that
Yeah.
you can't throw your back out, that it's too well woven together, that that's
Right.
just a way of phrasing it.
Yeah.
And then they also something I think I just saw it on Dr. Ragnan Chatterjee's podcast about running, how running is they used to have this idea that running would hurt your joints or cause issues, and it really doesn't. So, like putting your body into stressful stuff like dancing on concrete can actually strengthen your
Mm.
bones and joints and ligaments and stuff over time, you know? So maybe it was more about your pup. That, that,
Yeah. I
that,
mean, like I said, I'm an and both kind of person. Like, you know, even
yeah,
when you
yeah,
talked about the cold plunge,
yeah,
like, um, I was just reading something, and of course, science is always evolving, right?
it is. It
So the
is.
science right now, right? But the science right now is saying that, like, for women, it's a little different.
It
That
is. Yeah.
that like, you know, that the 38 degrees you're jumping into, it would be better for me if it was 55
Right.
degrees. That like that because of the way we kind of create heat in our body is slightly different,
Interesting. Yeah.
and that it like causes the stress response in women. So
Mm.
I think it's like you take it all with a grain of salt. Like if it's valuable to like to do the latest research on running for your you know for your sex and your age and you know that kind of thing. Like
Sure. Sure.
take it in and then and just see what
Do it. See if you like it.
sense. Yeah.
Mm. The
Um,
joy of it.
yeah. Like,
Oh,
you know, not like intermittent fasting.
yeah.
for some folks could, it depends on the windows you choose, but for some folks could cause like a stress response, you know?
Absolutely.
So
Yeah. All
it's,
of this causes us stress.
yeah,
It's,
yeah,
I don't see who wouldn't be stressed jumping in that water. I mean,
right.
yeah, I just it's but I hear where you're coming from, and I've heard about that too with fasting, especially for women and hormonal stuff.
Yeah,
So yeah, so it's we're different in all those ways, and like as human beings, we're really different too. And so on the journey of recovery, a lot of people are saying, well, why didn't I get better faster? Why was I in this particular, like, why didn't that happen for me like it happened to her? And
yeah,
I'll just say you had a different childhood, you have a different body, you live in a different time zone, you've got different support systems, you've got
yeah,
different, like everything, and genetics, all of it. And when it all comes together, the themes are what matter a lot more than the specifics. So that's what I'm bringing to people, just these broad themes of saying, like, you can recover, you're going to get better using
right.
this approach. I don't know how long it will take. I'm going to use rapid resolution therapy techniques to make it to accelerate it as much as I can using those skills, but everyone's unique.
Yeah,
So watching the clock and comparing are not super helpful.
right.
Like your journey, how long would you say your journey took you from when you first experienced that to the point where you knew that you were going to get better, and then from there to when you actually got to the point where you're like, well, it's faded out, like I'm good.
Yeah, I would say probably um 10 years of really in it and not
In
sh
it,
in it, and then 5 years of like with it,
with it, right?
but living life anyway. I mean, in the 10 years I was still like living, but some but like struggle. And then five
Right.
years of just with it and living life anyway, and then maybe five years of like no pain at all. But honestly, if it came up again tomorrow, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Like
that's exactly how I
it
feel.
could.
Yeah,
It could
that's how I
easily
feel.
something, but I
Right.
mean, I can't remember the last time anything hurt, but it could, and it's totally fine.
Fine. And that being fine is the mindset that you developed, right? I'm
Yeah,
sorry to interrupt you, but
no, it
I
is.
think
But
it's good for people to know that.
it is good for people to know that. And I also think, because something we mentioned in a previous conversation, I would like people to know that, like, when I first read this whole theme of like in the mind
Right.
was real jagged pill for me.
All right. Okay.
And so I think that's worth mentioning. Like when I first read Sarno's, I think it was Mind Over Back Pain, um, I threw the book across the room.
Yeah.
Because I felt like if I'm experiencing all this pain, emotional and physical, on all fours crawling to the bathroom, and you're telling me it's my fault, it's in my head, I caused it.
Right.
Um, and at the time, I didn't have a sense of different facets of mind. I didn't have a sense of unconscious mind. I didn't have a sense of sympathetic nervous system, you know, activity and any of that. So I took it in a way that felt like I was being blamed for it. So I think that might be worthwhile mentioning.
It
And
is. It
you
is.
and then you in a conversation yesterday, because when I we were talking about um what's the key to unlock that a little bit, um, is just this whole thought of that um that pain is there to protect it, that the mind's actually doing what it's wonderfully designed to do.
Right.
It just it's it's actually not helping, but it's trying to.
Right.
Um,
It is. Yeah. The intention is good.
the intention is good, and that's, you know,
Yeah.
it's kind of like it's kind of like a a genie that can make all your wishes come true, the unconscious mind, but it's also a toddler. It's like 3 years old.
Right. Yeah. And that, yeah. And I think that's kind of what Sarno was getting at, but
Yeah.
you're not the first one to throw his book or probably burn his
Yeah.
book.
I'm sure I'd read it really
Yeah.
differently now.
Yeah.
But that's it's designed to protect and it's doing what it's absolutely intended to do. But it doesn't need to do it. It doesn't need to
Right.
be like
Yeah.
firing on all cylinders to protect anything. Like you
Right.
got this. Like you'll do what makes sense to do. Like this thing that just this article that just came in front of you, if there's something valuable there that you want to look into it. This
Yeah.
person that's, training and is offering free sessions because they're on their way to certification, like meet with them, like
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
sort of, I call it the breadcrumb trail.
Right. Oh,
Whatever
I like that.
pops up to do, follow it,
Follow it. See
you
where
have
it
the
goes.
power of assessment, you can
Yeah. Yeah. You can shift and jive. You can
shift.
move like a dancer
Yeah,
through the landscape and
right, right,
grab some fruit as you whirl through the
right,
trees and
right,
jump over the snakes
right, right.
if you figure out there's snakes.
Yeah,
And yeah, so I love that. Yeah, the breadcrumb trail.
yeah.
So from that point, like where you said you were with it for 10 years, sounds like you were suffering. And I always see suffering as just not wanting to be in that sensation.
Yeah.
Like when I look at unconscious mind, and you probably have thought of it this way too, it doesn't care about comfort at all. Like comfort is not a part of its priority. Like it doesn't even want, it doesn't reference that. I mean, it gives us these weird dreams, nightmares, whatever. It's processing data in the night, it's clearing, and then it gives us these really intense sensations so we'll survive.
Right.
Sometimes they can feel good, sometimes they can feel really bad, and that judgment is what creates the suffering. So
Yeah.
once you realize that the suffering can end when you stop judging it and allowing it, and then it sounds like that's what happened to you after 10 years, and then you were with it, it was moving with you, and you were expanding your life again, and then it faded out. So it seems like when you've accepted it and allowed it and continue to live your life, that fade just happened naturally, or did you start like working, reading, like were you doing techniques, or was it just a process of returning to life?
It was the biggest thing was definitely returning to life, living life anyway, moving forward anyway, the MFA. And then there was some really practical things that I kind of mentioned before, which was the heat and the ice,
Right.
was such a powerful way to communicate to the nervous system, like that I've got that we're okay, that I've got this. Like you don't
Yeah.
need to throw a temper tantrum to try to protect me right now. Like it's all good. I've got it. And just also just a little bit of some the pelvic area is like our main weight bearing area. And
Yeah.
so there was some things that I began to understand about the psoas muscle that connects the upper body and lower body, a very, very long muscle, and that can be contracted in different areas, top or the bottom. So I recognized some stuff about psoas and I recognized some stuff about core support. Again, it's just kind of it is along the umbrella of doing what makes sense to do, in
Right.
addition to the move forward anyway mentality.
So you were also strengthening your body.
Yeah,
Okay. Because I look at it like strengthening the body. And I've seen this in so many folks who are on the recovery path, like almost all of them will at some point get stronger and stronger because they were bedbound, or
right.
they had atrophy, like physical, like their bodies had gotten in a space where they weren't moving much. So when they come back to it, they build this strength. And I always think about it, unconscious mind reads that strength as safety, as a guarantee against any possible predator. So when I do squats with the 40-pound dumbbells in each hand, my mind is reading that as he's strong. Or if I
Yeah,
jump in the ocean, he's strong. Or if
yeah,
I, whatever I'm doing, like mind is reading, he's stronger. And I don't think it's particularly the muscle. I think it's the mind. The mind is reading it that way. So the mind is reading, okay, like I'm not sure specifically what you did, but as you get stronger
Yeah.
and calmer,
Yeah.
then things fade.
Yeah.
Yeah, this the
I mean, I
sensations.
kind of think there's a mind in every cell. You know, I think
There
that
is. Yeah.
I think it extends, and I
Yeah.
think it's
Uh-huh.
the same type of communication of
Mhm.
like, I got this. Like we're okay.
Yeah.
Like
I love
we
that.
we know how to fall, we know how to get back up. Like
Yeah.
it's so it's the same set type of, so the theme is like of like it's the opposite of ignoring and masking. It's just
Right.
facing it,
Allowing. Yeah.
allowing, attending to it if it makes sense to attend to it,
Right.
and living life anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So at what point did you realize in your journey, at what point did you realize that it was behind you? Did it fade to the point where it was a surprise? Like in RRT, sometimes we'll say, like, somebody will be on a journey with anxiety and anxiety just forgot to show up. And that
Right.
happens for so many people. They move forward in their lives and we work with some processes with them and then check in later and it's like, yeah, anxiety forgot to show up. Like it's not an issue anymore.
Right.
Like it's no big deal. Yeah. So did you have an aha moment like that or no? Or was it just kind of life just rolled on and you're looking back and saying, I'm glad to be where I am now and those
I
sensations are not.
Life really rolled on because I had this just whole I when I shifted into like I kind of know what works for me.
Yeah.
This type of strengthening, this type of heat and cold therapy, these
Mm,
types of pleasure and relaxation techniques. And it ended up not mattering if it came or not. I don't really remember when the intervals started getting farther and farther apart of
right.
the flare-ups or whatever the sensations popping up.
Right.
So it was a slow fade. And like I said, like if like for example, if I were to try to really like I'm a mom of a young child and I'm in a career transition, so I'm not in the best shape right now. But if I were to like kind of move towards like getting in shape again, I'm sure it would come up. I'm sure the sensations
Sure.
would come up. So it's not like behind me, but the suffering is.
Right. So what you said just a minute ago really hit home that it didn't matter anymore if it was there. Like it wasn't an issue anymore. It wasn't worthy of resistance. It wasn't like worthy of judgment or resistance. It was just if it was there, it was there. If it was not, whatever. Like
Yeah.
it no longer controlled you at all.
Yep.
And so one of the big themes, and you probably remember from my workshop, is that chronic pain is fueled by fear.
Hmm.
So at that point, I see you reached a point where there was no more fear around it. Like it
No.
wasn't, the fear wasn't going to happen. It just didn't happen. You might have had sensation, but the fear disappeared. And then once the fear disappears, unconscious just sort of lets it fade.
Yeah.
And most people don't even know when it faded. Like they look back and they're like, well, I don't know when my last flare up was. Like I know I
Right.
had some a year
Yeah.
ago, but after that, I was just kind of living my life. And yeah, sometimes it hurt, whatever. I went skiing or whatever, like,
Yeah.
and I love to see that with clients when they're like, I reach out after a while, what's been happening? Oh, I had a great year. I went skiing or I went on a trip to Costa Rica. I went somewhere and the sensations maybe were there, maybe weren't there. Didn't
Yeah.
matter.
Right.
And so then I know they're home free. Like I
Right.
know the
Right.
recovery's inevitable at that point because
Right.
there's no more fuel, there's no more fear. And the
Right.
time frames on it, who knows? Everybody's unique.
I think that the pitfall folks can get into when if getting inspired by a conversation like this is an all or nothing mentality, where
Right.
they ignore the things that pop up that might make sense to do to support the body. So it really, that's the only thing I would say is that
Yeah,
it's okay to still do what makes sense to do.
absolutely.
You know,
Yeah, I like that a lot, Jocelyn. Thank you for that.
yeah, because
Yeah.
I think if you think about like a rubber ball and you throw it against a wall, it's gonna just ricochet back and forth.
Right.
So that's how I think about anything that's like really like 100% mentality. Like if it's
Right.
so extreme, you're just it might send you, you know, into a like a deeper pit because you have so much hope on this one like
Right.
holy grail of a thing. And I think that that can be a tough journey. So like still do what makes sense to do.
Yeah. It's
But exactly like you said, the fear without it, there's nothing for it to latch onto. Um,
yeah.
so
It,
yeah,
it burns out. It burns out over time, like the campfire. It
yeah,
just I like that ball. That's amazing. It's wonderful because and that all or nothing thinking, like that extreme kind of being with ourselves, for a lot of people on the journey, everybody I've seen is like hyper intelligent, hyper analytical, hyper like that. Hyper is a big word. Like they push their bodies. Like sounds like as a dancer, you were your warm-ups, your workouts, you were pushing. I was the same way. And I had pain in high school on a crew team that was coming up to row against colleges in Boston. And like there was weightlifting, there were like everything I was doing was this intensity and this self-judgment and this all or nothing. And at one point, I realized that that was slipping a little bit. And sometimes my mindset around certain things when I was running, especially cross country, if I was really having a good time and I wasn't pushing myself, I would actually do better than when I was amped up and worried about it and felt forced. And I was like, so it's interesting because the that very mentality of relaxing into it, there's no such thing as a perfect recovery. There's no such thing. It's not black or white. You can use a little of this or a little of that. This is
right,
life. And
right,
not judging yourself for that. And at
right.
the same time, not using that as a crutch or a fix it all. Like that's
No,
not going to do it. The mindset needs to be there too and having that relaxed attitude. And I really love that because there are a lot of extremists in the community and they're like, you absolutely can't do this. And like every time you do this, it's wrong. And I have clients who come to me from other coaching programs or other coaches out there. Well, they'll say, if you do this, it's going to slow you down.
mm,
And I say, no, it's not. It's going to give you insight. Just
right,
like you said, if you
right.
go try this, and this, that your journey is laid out. There's a
Hmm.
path through the rainforest, and you take every step. You keep moving. Like you might slip. You might slip down a slope. You might get caught up in a spider web and a spider's on your face, whatever. Like
Hmm.
you
Yeah,
keep moving. And then and that's the attitude that I want everybody to have is because if you have this perfectionist attitude, this black and white thinking, you create something else for unconscious to react to.
right,
And
right.
so that, yeah, it's that dualistic, black, white, right, wrong, all that.
Yeah,
As soon as you judge something as being, oh, I messed up today, I used ibuprofen. No, I don't want anybody. I want people to feel like that's okay. Like all these little steps, they're
yep,
flowing forward. And then at some point, you're not going to use the ibuprofen. At some point, you're not going to even think to use the ice. You're not even going to need it. Like,
right.
and then if
Yep.
you do, so it's this fluidity.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's
It's a dance.
that's all we know about life, right? Is that things are always changing.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
only constant. Like it's
That
okay.
is.
You won't
Yeah.
be in this pain forever. It can't be.
Yeah. It
It
can't
can't
persist.
be.
Yeah. That's what I love. Yeah. That's ancient. And I always
Yeah,
attributed that to Buddha of like
yeah, of
that
course.
nothing lasts. I'm sure the idea was around before him, but nothing will last forever. So enjoy even while you're in this journey where things are intense. You're going to find these moments of joy. You're going to find these friends that you never found. There's blessings, there's treasures. And
Yep.
it's like an Easter egg hunt or something. Like it might feel like you're walking on coals, but at the same time, you're finding these treasures, and it's
Right.
just this adventure.
Yeah, and even the moments of, well, that didn't work, um
Yeah,
are is progress.
yeah, it
And
totally
great,
is.
good to know. I'm not going to put energy into that again. So I have
Yeah, no
more
more.
energy for,
No-
so it's just the process of like filtering stuff, like this might have some value to return to, this doesn't, you know, and
Yeah,
so there is no failure in this. It's just learning.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to wrap things up because I know you've been here giving us this blessing of your time, and I really appreciate you being here. I just want to wrap up maybe with like anything you're grateful for from your journey, like anything that you look back now and say, well, I'm glad that happened to me, like mindset shifts or perspective shifts. So you already gave us one, basically. It feels like you got to a place where you start whatever you're doing with an attitude of more, let's find the joy, let's find
Yeah. Yeah. I think
the
that,
soul.
yeah, and the pleasure.
Pleasure. Yeah, pleasure.
Pleasure
Totally.
is huge. I will say that I'll say again that I am grateful, and I'm saying this for anybody who might be older listening, that I'm grateful that this happened when I was young, because it's like I have my own personal proof and I'm here to say, it's just like, but
Yeah.
it's not um that that I personally don't associate it with aging, that the body's always changing and healing, and folks can
Right.
be even healthier, even stronger in their when they're older, uh,
Absolutely.
than they were young. So it's not like a linear thing. So that's one. And then yeah, the greater interest and recognition of like a higher return for my time and energy when I approach things with pleasure, and also when I curious, um
Yeah.
and when I am more interested in listening. So those that approach, I use that a lot in art, but it can also, I mean, with a child, raising a child or learning a new career. um I think it offers you, like, if you were to picture a funnel that's wide on the top and narrow on the bottom, it just offers you a wider funnel where you're just taking in more. When you have that, it's just taught me how to really um, listen and be curious. And then, yeah, I just think that anyone who is in pain or who has gone through pain is accumulating wisdom.
Right.
And um, when I watch a dancer, for example, I'm much more interested in watching wisdom, when watching experience.
Right.
I think it's great if you're like 16 and you can like fold your body in half and do like 16 pirouettes. Like that's fascinating for that moment. But what keeps my attention is the wisdom body, the
Right.
energetic body. And I think that um the the pain journey is it even in like immense pain, you're just gaining that wisdom as you go and as you move through it. So I don't know, that was a little cloudy and murky, but hopefully there was something clear there.
No, for me, it's clear. It sounds like you've expanded your capacity, like the funnel, you've expanded your capacity to take in what's coming, what's opportunities or things that are good to have done.
Yeah.
Like you're able to assimilate all that, and the wisdom that you got from your journey is now being used in your life as a parent and
Yeah.
as a person at this stage in your life. You're able to use all that, and that's a beautiful thing. And yeah, having that experience young and finding your way through it when you're still young, you're able to address it in a way where, like, some coaches have worked with folks who've had chronic pain for 40 years and they still come out of it after 40 years, but they were in it for 40 years. And some of them were bedbound or whatever, and they didn't have the insights and the wisdom that you have. So they got that wisdom and they got that insight. And that's been really helpful and productive for them to be able to have that 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 wisdom and that insight.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and and like what you're doing now, like you've gone through your own pain journey, and like the amount of people that you're able um to connect with and have and guide through that is so beyond rewarding, I'm sure.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's a powerful thing to
Yeah.
watch somebody go from like I'm never going to be able to do anything again to I'm back to life. Like I'm
Right.
back out. I'm
Yeah.
traveling. I'm like,
Yeah.
and it's yeah, it's super rewarding.
Yeah.
So so any last, I mean, you just gave us so much wisdom, Jocelyn. Thank you.
Thank
And I
you.
you're
Thank
welcome.
you. I mean, I wish I had met you in my 20s. I think it might have expedited the process a little bit, but you know,
Well, I don't even know, like, I mean, some of the people who've recovered have said that back in the day that there wasn't much. There was just John Sarno. Like now
there's
we have apps, we have YouTube, we have like
right,
I have my YouTube channel at Healing Wolf Coaching. Everybody's
right,
watching it right now.
right.
Instagram, we have all these different
So
coaches with
much
different
more.
approaches and all these physicians that are coming into it and
Hmm.
research, like the Boulder
Yep.
back pain study. Like, so it's becoming legitimized.
Right.
Insurance companies are starting to come into it. There are these healing, there are these groups of coaches now. There's companies that are putting together coaches, and I haven't worked for any of them, but I have coaching friends who do. So yeah, so and then coming into as you're in the RRT community, uh, finding that I found that early. So I found that as a teenager, and I've been learning all the way from before there was RRT, when it was clinical hypnosis, when it was like those techniques were developing. Like I learned all along the way. I've watched it evolve. Even with all that knowledge, I still needed more. I still needed more to get to the point where I realized, okay, this is what's happening. But super helpful to have those altered states of consciousness, those techniques. So I'm really thankful for having met John Connolly early on and been able to do trainings throughout my life, even though I had a life as an artist. I mean, my career's been art, music, all and now coaching. So yeah, so it helps also to have folks like you who've lived in an artistic way as a dancer, a performer, and going through all that, you're bringing also that creative element to it. So you're not coming from a more academic background, and you're going to be able to help people in a different way as you move forward too. If that's
Yeah.
your, yeah,
Yeah, there's so many more resources now. So it and I'm grateful for that for myself, but also for other people. And
yeah,
I guess my parting words would be to follow the breadcrumb trail, and
yeah, love
and
it.
and that it's most of the time going to be a multi-pronged approach. It's not one thing.
Right.
Um, and but that doesn't mean you can't do one thing at a time and assess its value, and then and move on with it. But
Yeah,
yeah. And some of these things are just, like you said, you were introduced to RRT early, but there is also just experiential learning. So
totally.
not just
Yeah.
mind can take in stuff, but there's also the doing and the moving through it, and
Yeah.
that's part of it.
You don't, yeah, you don't become a sea captain without setting out on the ocean and going through storms and going
Yeah,
through all kinds of so in
yeah,
any context, or I say sometimes you, in order to become a real kahuna, you in surfing chronic pain or anxiety or whatever it is, that you need to ride the big waves. And that
right,
is the experience of what it's like in that process
yeah,
and going through all this panic attacks and withdrawals from the medication. All of those experiences give me such insight, because then when I'm working with somebody, I'm like, oh yeah, I know where you are, and
yeah,
I know where I went after that, and I know what helped
right,
me, and I know what helped
right,
my friends and whatever.
right,
So
right.
yeah, that authority of having danced it
Hmm.
and Hey, do you know Nathaniel Rateliff? Have you heard of his music?
Um, mm-mm.
Yeah, there's a song that I love, and it's called "Remember I Was a Dancer."
Uh,
And I love the lyrics in the song. He says, "Pick me up and spin me around, and maybe I'll remember how to smile." And to me, that just wow! It's like when people are in a lot of chronic pain or anxiety or whatever, they don't remember how to feel joy. And then he's
of
screaming,
course. Yeah.
Remember I was a dancer. Remember I was a. I'll send you a link to it. But
Yeah,
anybody
that'd be great.
listening, check it out on YouTube. It's a beautiful song. And he's had a long journey with all kinds of stuff. And yeah, that song, Remember I Was a Dancer. It's like remember the joy in dancing, remember the light
Yeah,
and being a creative being.
right. Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. That's
so
beautiful.
yeah,
Look
I'll
that up
let you
now.
go.
Yeah,
What's that?
I'm gonna look that up now. That's
Yeah, yeah,
wonderful.
listen to it. I love
Yeah.
it. I'll belt it out. And yeah, I scream it. I don't sing that song, but yeah, check that out.
Yeah.
And yeah, thanks again for showing up and sharing and
Yeah.
being a part of this recovery journey. So
Thanks for
I hope
having me. It was really, really, thanks for the space and for the learning and
yeah.
yeah, and I hope there's something here for some folks.
Oh, there's a lot of wisdom here. So
Yeah. Yeah.
again, thank you and let's stay in touch.
Yeah, let's do that. All right.
Have,
Thank you.
have a beautiful day.
You too.